Good morning. How are we all doing? We are back. This is the latest episode of the Goose podcast. Charles, I know you told me to talk slow, but this is the part where I have to talk really fast. So anyway, with me today, I have Charles and Catherine, both from Sia. That's I pronounced it correctly? Sia.
That's right.
And what they are doing is really cool. If you've ever done like HR training and any of that boring bullshit, this is pretty much the start of a new way to do it. They're very much focused in the gamification of accountants onboarding training processes. Am I right? Is that the one-liner that I'm on the right track, or have I missed it?
No, that's about it. We'll get into it in more detail as we go.
Okay, all right. So I suppose start with introduce yourselves. Let us know who you are, what we're doing, why we're here today, I suppose.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, we're delighted to be here and to talk about this project because for us, it's really exciting. It's different, it's engaging, and also like really relatable. So we're excited to talk about it today. So my name is Catherine O'Doherty. I am an associate partner in a company called Sia. So Sia is a global management consultancy firm. We offer the full range of typical consulting services that you would expect, but we really do try to bring real value through technology to our clients as well. So we invest heavily in things like AI, in emerging technology, and really try to bring innovation to our clients using technology, but also making sure that it sits really well with people and with organizations as well. So I am based in Dublin. I look after our business and digital transformation team here across the UK and Ireland. And I was part of the project that we're going to speak about today, which we're really excited about. And Charles, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, John. So first of all, forgive my English, but I'm French, based in Paris, so I hope you will understand everything with my French accent. I'm Charles Lonjaret, as I'm a senior manager at Sia, based in Paris offices. And what I specialize at is to create and design immersive experiences for our clients. For many kind of clients, whereas it's like for learning purpose, maybe for marketing or consumer or customer experiences. But basically what I do and what my team does is to design that kind of experience using emerging and immersive technologies such as interactive 3D, virtual reality, augmented reality, of course, some Gen AI at some point. And basically we just are trying to use and catch the best technologies to create the best experiences for our clients. This is what we've done for CA.
Yeah. No, look, anything that once the word gamification comes on my table, I automatically go, ooh, we're going to have a good time today. And FYI, we got 2 minutes into the podcast before the word AI got brought up. I think we might be I think that might be a new high speed record. But so basically, AR, VR, AI collapsing the best of all different technologies to create a platform. What's the platform do? Who's it for? Bring me back to the very start of this. Like
how this came about. So, I mean, we're going to speak about a specific project and experience today, I suppose. And that is an experience that we built for Chartered Accountants Ireland, who are a professional body who look after accountants in Ireland, the accreditation of accountants, the CPD of accountants, and, the safeguarding of the profession, really. Our engagement with Chartered Accountants actually started with CPA, which were actually just recently merged with Chartered Accountants Ireland. And kind of by chance, this came about in a way because we actually met Trish O'Sullivan, who's the head of member innovation from Chartered Accountants, at an event. And as these things happen, we just got chatting and she was telling us about some of her work in innovation in this space and how they'd really like to do something cool, something interesting for their members and kind of stretch the boundaries of learning a little bit. And, by chance, we were like, well, look, we do lots of work in this space. We do lots of VR. We have done a bunch of projects globally. And we'd love to bring that experience to you. So that's where it all started. It actually started off with working on a project whereby we built a module for accountants based around RPA. So helping accountants identify opportunities to use RPA in their day-to-day. So that was the first thing that we did, and there was a lot of learnings that came out of that on the client side, on our side, in terms of the designing of the learning experience, the learning pathways, things like that, and actually went really well. But our client and Chartered Accountants Ireland wanted to do more, and which is fantastic, right? They really wanted to keep innovating, and so they really wanted to tackle a subject called professional scepticism, which in accounting and in auditing, it's pretty important, and actually in lots of professions, to be skeptical is very important.
Sure.
So we embarked on a journey with them to design a VR immersive learning experience to teach professional skepticism. Now, the interesting thing about professional skepticism is that it actually can't be truly learned through rote learning alone. So to just go and sit in a lecture and read books and hear someone talking about it, you don't truly learn it. It needs to be an experiential piece. So VR is perfect for this, right?
Yeah.
So we worked with Chartered Accountants to really co-design an experience for their people, primarily for trainee auditors, to really complement the academic side of professional skepticism. So that's the kind of backdrop of it. It was a bit of an evolution, kind of came about by chance in terms of how we met. Our first interaction, our first project went really well together and proved what actually was possible and really got people thinking. And then this professional skepticism piece has really taken off because it has just gotten so much interest from universities, from academics around actually like how much this can complement learning.
That's where I think what you've built here, there's a bigger, I know, look, we're obviously building something for a client and it's very, very cool, but I think there's a bigger piece here because like, I know the way I learn, I have the attention span of a sock. Like it's terrible. It's terrible. If you ask me, I remember when I was in college, like sitting in a lecture hall for 2 hours, the amount of times I fell asleep is unholy. And I did product design in college, which was a make and do course. So I was in a room with toys drills. I don't know how I ended up doing this career path, but yeah, in college, it was literally in a basement with tools, drills, foam, sponge, breaking things, making things. But it was the same in school. The subjects I was good at were technical drawing, chemistry, the more hands-on interactive ones. If you made me sit there and read Irish prose all day, I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's that thing. It's how people learn, and we're getting better at understanding it.
Exactly. And also what's really interesting is, we've brought this and Chartered Accountants have brought this experience to some of the universities and brought the headsets to the students, and the students jumped into it and like just got it like instantly, right? Like, we also have to remember that the generation that's coming through college now, like they're digital natives, they're using VR in ways that other generations aren't today. So it's just their ability to adopt is just so quick for this kind of thing as well. So it's really powerful in that sense too, because you actually don't have all of the adoption challenges that you might have elsewhere.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. So but I think it's that thing of right. So like, I suppose the best obvious question is, I start a job as a chartered accountant or with chartered accountants. What happens?
Well, so now I'm not an accountant, so just
good. Neither am I. I'm marketing. I love spending money, not knowing where it goes.
I guess this module and this experience was built. So it'll be offered in different ways. So if you are an accountant, you're a member of a professional body, you have to maintain a certain level of training every year and do your continued professional development. This professional skepticism piece could be a module that you complete as part of your CPD. And actually for the previous module that we built, the CPA were offering like hours towards their CPD for just getting involved in the use of the technology, because it's to encourage people to actually try something new as well and to play around with innovation. But the other piece is as well is the fact that this particular module is specifically aimed at trainee auditors. And so it will be used in universities as part of degrees and master courses. But it will also be used in, so like accounting firms are interested in having this. So when they get their graduates in, that this will be one of their kind of core pieces of training that they do. Like it's quite a simple experience, and Charles maybe can tell a little bit more about like the actual what it looks and feels like and how long it takes to complete and things like that. But the point is, I suppose, is that this is like a really immersive way for someone to learn a topic that you just can't sit down and learn with the book, right? You have to experience it. You have to practice decision making. You have to feel the consequence of those decisions, and you have to work in like, you know, an environment where there's ambiguity, where there's pressure, where there's alternative motives. All of these things you can't just get from reading a case study or reading a book, you know.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So, Charles, over to you.
Yeah, maybe just to begin, let me tell you just a story of mine. Like
I like stories.
Yeah,
go for it.
But believe it or not, I began my career as a financial auditor. So I was intern for a global audit firm, and after I would say 2 or 3 days, my first assignment began. I had to audit like a sausage manufacturing company, which produced like over 1 million sausage per year. I was like, okay, let's do that. So the audit is like a mandatory piece for every kind of company. Yeah. First, you receive all the documentation, all the financial documentations, all the stocks, and what you have to apprehend is to check that all the financial statements are accurate and trustworthy. And what you have to do is to check all these documents, and then you have to go on site to make some checks on site, and then to interview some key people of the company. And I was like 22, 23 years old, and at some point,
that's a big task to jump on day 3.
yeah. And some of my managers just asked me, okay, tomorrow you will ask the CFO of the company, you will interview the CFO of the company about those financial statements, about all those checks you have to make. And of course, when I arrived in the company, I was like, okay, I'm just very afraid because I'm going to meet this guy who's really important in the company. I don't know what's going to happen. We might have like some compromising situation. If you try to intimidate me, what should I do? Should I say to my manager? How should I react? And this is the case. So this was the case 10 years ago, but I believe this is still the case today. And what we wanted to recreate is like to create this, this sandbox where people and young auditors can just try and do this risk-free, using this risk-free area when they can improve, better understand the kind of conversation they might have with their counterparts in the company, and etc. So what we created is that we recreated and we designed like this company all in VR. We created it pieces by pieces. We created some warehouses, some manufacturing line, the office of the CEO, the office of the accountant, and etc. And this whole experience was designed as an escape room, an escape game, sorry. And when you enter the experience, you just put your VR device on, you have both of your controllers, and then you enter in the company. So basically you enter in the welcoming area of the company, and then you just face the accountant who is here just to welcome you at your first day in the company. And then the adventure begins. So this is what we designed. Cool. Yeah. And so based on my experience, but also on the whole accountant's experience from chartered accountants, we created like this kind of real scenarios that you really might have when you're auditing a company. And basically what you have to do is to first, so you enter a room, then you have to check for different documents, but also you have to check around yourself to get some clues, maybe some evidence, which might help you in the audits. And then you face the accountant, then from someone from the warehouse, someone from the CEO office, and etc. And then you enter in conversation with them. And basically, like the non-playable character, the avatar which we are facing, will always try to trap you, to get you in a trap in a way. Maybe be very familiar with you at some point, maybe try to intimidate you, and etc. And based on that, in every conversation, you have to go through the right answers just to fully fill the conversation, but also based on real audit evidence. So you mix both financial statements and audit evidence, and then you have to express your soft skills and to be always skeptical about what the other person is telling you. And once you have finished a room, you enter in a new one, you find some new clues, and it will help you to fulfill the whole experience.
No, this is really cool. So like, I'm just thinking about like my work history. Like, so as I said, I worked in marketing, and we had this thing where it was like, here's your rite of passage. Your rite of passage was fucking up a customer's account. Like, essentially, it's that thing of you had to learn your attention to detail by screwing up,
messing up.
And like my mistake, and thank God I got away with it. I was supposed to spend €700 in a month. I spent $7,000 in a day. And then I had to, obviously, like, I'm entry level. This is week 3 on the job. I'm then put in front of the client to explain myself. And this is just like anybody who worked in digital advertising. This is just like, you have to mess up once to realize that this is someone else's company, this is someone else's money, this isn't monopoly click button stuff on the internet. It's not that. And it's only when you have to sit in front of the client and get it and take a bollocking that you go, I'm never making that mistake again. So Charles, I can only imagine how you felt day 3 walking into a company that to have to interview someone of that level and go, cool, I'm here a week. I'm not ready for this. So that having that barrier and going, here's where you can make your mistakes. Here's where you're going to learn the questions that you should be asking or the route that you should be taking, so that when you do actually have that scenario for the first time, you're way further along than just, hi, day 1. In the moment you go and see what happens.
Yeah, for it, definitely.
It makes so much sense.
It's like it's the psychological safety, as they say, right? To fail, in that you can exercise that decision-making muscle in a way that is in some way like is consequence-free, right? But we also could build in some cool features into the game to assess how people thought that they did, so that it wasn't just also about fluke or them kind of easily navigating. So at the end, we get them to assess how they think they did and, compare that to actually how they did. And so you can tell then, if someone is consciously aware of, what they did, or whether they just got through, randomly picking the right answer, whatever it might be. It just really gives you that like chance to feel what the situation looks like in a really safe way.
I like the VR element because, like, look, we've all done HR training before, and we have all had to do that onboarding process and then the annual top-up things. If we're going to be honest between us, have any of us ever actually watched those videos through? Or do you just put them on double speed, go about your business and quickly answer at the end? Because we all know the process here. Like,
how long before you take your phone and you look at something else?
Yeah, no, every time I've done
there is a real program in HR training about how you get 100% focus on what you have. And definitely, if you have like some in-person HR training, at some point you will have to face the other person. You will have to have like this active listening. But if you are just on your own, on your computer, watching at some videos, you have like so many distractions, and we have more and more distractions. So if you put like this VR headset on, then everything else has no importance anymore. You're just in your in that space. You don't have access to your phone, to your mails, and etc. So this is very effective in that way.
It seems like it makes sense from multiple angles here. From a company's perspective, like, I know when we do the HR training and stuff, like, I hate it. I genuinely hate it because it's all the most basic. Do you know where the teacups go? Like, go away from me. But it's that thing of, like, we've ticked the box and now they have the start and we're covered. But they're not trained properly from the actual employee side. Then there's that thing of, I ticked their stupid box, now let me actually get on with my job, versus I'm missing that onboarding piece. I've just ticked the box. Nobody seems to learn during an onboarding period. It's just like, let me get this out of the way so I can get stuck in. Whereas this makes sense that you're like immersed in scenarios and you're actually actively, going through the process. So if you're HR, if you're a line manager, you can actually stand over each of these employees and go, here's where you need to improve. Here's where we know that you're good and bad at. And from an employee's perspective, if there's more areas that they need help, they can ask. If there's things that they need to know before they go face the big bad clients.
Yeah.
This is logical.
It does. I mean, just as a learning method, you know, the research has proven that this type of learning is way stickier. Like people are quicker to retain the knowledge than like other training methods or e-learning or, you know, classroom, things like that, because it is immersive. And as Charles said, like, it's a really good point. You can't be picking up your phone. You can't be getting distracted because you're trying to navigate your way through. So it really focuses the attention. So yeah, it's really effective as a learning tool.
I really like the feedback loop at the end as well. It's like that self-assessment piece.
Yeah.
Because it actually means from an employee's perspective, they're not going, do you know what it is? There's this thing of ownership and accountability, right? If you kind of have to tick the boxes on a piece of paper, then you can go, well, that's HR or my line manager's issue. I've ticked their box. Whereas this puts the accountability on me and going, right, do I feel comfortable and ready to do the job to the best of my ability? Oh, actually, this platform is telling me no, or I didn't escape the room, or I missed this obvious clue. And I'd imagine this kind of skepticism thing is like, here's a receipt and an invoice, but why do you have a gold statue over there?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. You know, and the game is funny, and we can share a link to show some images from it and things like that. But you know, there's some things built in, like, you know, there's a cup on the CEO's desk that says "World's Best Boss," and like, you know, there's just like a photograph of the boss with another employee on their desk, and just things that are like overly familiar, may like raise some eyebrows as to why things are like this in this organization, you know. So they just
like, oh, this is family.
Yeah,
or,
too close of a relationship, or too like familiar of a relationship, things like that, you know. So like subtle details built in to kind of catch the eye.
I'm not even
going to you just live the situation, you know. You're like, when you come to the warehouse, at some point you have like 400 meters square when you can just walk around, see like at some point that you have many pieces in the assembly line piece room. You just see like a boat, because the company we're creating is like a boat building company, and you see that boat which is under construction, and then you can see all the details, many stuff. You can see that the accountant is very messy, that he has papers all over his room, and then you can just enter in the psychology of the people you are talking with, saying that, oh, if the accountant is a bit messy, doesn't take care about his office, maybe he will have forgotten something, maybe he's going to mislead you because he has made some mistake by himself. So definitely, like, the fact that you are in VR just helps you to build like an environment, making it very real for the learner, and you create just some I would say memorial anchorage, saying that he has already lived this situation. He's not doesn't just have seen a situation, he lived it, saying that he won't make the error twice.
This is really cool. I feel like you could release this as a game called Audit Simulator. I have literally played a game called Parking Ticket Monitor Simulator, where your job is going around a city to see where cars are parked, if they're parked the right way, and giving tickets.
There you go. There's an audience for everything.
I put about 18 hours into that game, which is pathetic, but I did. I feel like people would actually play that as a standalone game outside of training. So, like, the fact that from a training perspective you are that heavily engaged can only mean that, as you said, the stickiness of it, that I'm going to retain the information because it felt more real that I was in a scenario than just signing off a document to say, I definitely read that.
Exactly. Exactly. And actually, like, so chartered accountants, as I said, have engaged with a couple of universities in Ireland on this, and they brought it down to one university, I think it was UL, and spoke to one of the classes there with it, and the students tried it out. And actually, one of the things the lecturer was going to do with the students was to get them to do an assignment based on professional skepticism, based on the textbook learning and the lecture hall learning, I suppose, versus then do reflection on like the VR experience and compare and contrast the learning experiences, the outcomes and things like that. So that's going to be really interesting to see as well, to actually, see what.
That'd be a business school in UL, I'd imagine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did my master's in there as well.
I did my degree there as well.
Yeah.
So close to my heart.
I'm literally in Raheen, Limerick, by the Crown Chapel there.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Martin's in Dublin. I'm in Limerick. One of the other lads is Limerick. We have another lad in Dublin. I think actually 3 are in Dublin, 2 in Limerick. One of them used to be in Canada, but he's home now.
Brilliant. Well, I did Elm Park back in the day, so probably not probably not where we'd go now, but yeah.
No. Anyway, but look, I get my head back on track here. So, Sia Partners essentially collaborate with brand companies and clients like this to basically create customized software to suit their needs. Correct?
Correct. Yes, that's right.
You can't imagine that is always, when a project like this comes on your table, I can't imagine it's always plain sailing. So talk to me about the headaches, the barriers, how many times our head had to bang off that brick wall before we were like, Eureka, we've got something class here, because you do.
Yeah, it's a really good question. Because I think with a project like this, and Charles, you can maybe speak to some of the co-design piece, but with a project like this that's new for the people that we're working with and the client, there's a learning curve that goes with it, because it's different to the type of projects that they'll have done before, which might have been like more traditional technology projects or, whatever it is. So it's just a different, and even for myself in kind of, going through these type of projects, it's a different approach, and it's a different way of thinking in terms of the experience. So definitely think that there's a learning curve for everyone in it. And with something like VR, there's lots of perceptions there around like adoption challenges, or maybe there being barriers to it, like the headsets and things like that. So you're also kind of trying to overcome any perceptions that might be there that also kind of might impact how much people buy into it, but we were very lucky with this project with Chartered Accountants, because honestly, the team at Chartered Accountants, Trish and Aisling, like, they were incredible. They really had a vision for this, and they knew that it was going to be a learning curve. They knew that it was going to be, new for them, but they trusted us. And I actually think that was why this piece of work was so successful, because they trusted our capability. They brought so much to the table in terms of, the academic side of it, the research, the learning paths, and really the combined experience then was what made it like really successful. That would be my kind of taking it from my angle, but Charles, from a design perspective, then.
What I can say is that basically, and for most of the VR training we might have worked on, it was a bit different in terms of perception, because in many projects you are using VR as a tool, saying that you come into a VR environment and you will leave it as maybe you will displace some objects, you will see some stuff, you will react about those objects. In this scenario, in this VR experience, we were more about interpersonal conversations, saying that this was the main things. This was about soft skills, and this was a bit different than other projects. So basically what we have done from the beginning was like, okay, so we want to focus on that. And we will use our game design expertise that we already use to create like some serious games, some escape game, but physical ones. And we'll use all this expertise to create a virtual one, but feeling as a physical one. And what we've done is to create all those scenarios with our counterpart from Chartered Accountants, and we kind of made it all together to create this world experience together with Chartered Accountants. So basically, we had like this game design and VR expertise. They had this audit piece expertise, and we had to mix everything to get a red thread all along this the escape game, make it as realistic as possible, both in terms of data and audit pieces, but as well in terms of level of playability, to make it flexible, accessible to everyone, even if you have not used any VR tool or headset before. So that was like kind of the main problematic. And maybe the second thing is you have to interact with non-playable characters. And like in terms of 3D and VR technology, it can be a bit tricky at some point to get some reaction from the non-playable characters that looks like it's real. And you have to create all of that. You have to design all of this interactions. If at some point the non-playable character is angry, you have some body language which has to be very effective. You have to understand it. You have the voice will not be the same at each point. So you have to recreate all of these things to make it as real as possible.
Which makes sense, because I'd imagine in that real life scenario, like if I'm pissed, you might not tell it in my voice, but you'll tell it in my stance and how I'm leaning over. And those are things that if you're in that job and environment, you're actually going to have to understand.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual headset itself, are we building for a particular headset, or is it a case of like companies can buy any off the rack kind of VR kit and it'll do the job? Like we're not asking someone to spend $1,000 on a PS5 and VR kit kind of thing.
No, what we use is we use some, I would say the most common headset like from Meta Quest. So basically you can use it on each kind of Meta Quest. It won't be so hard to adapt it to other kind of headsets, but still, as it was like the most common one, it's always our developer are more used to develop on that. So
which makes sense, because I think the latest Meta Quest, we're at three now.
Yeah, you have 3 and 3S now.
Yeah, and they're about 300 odd quid. Like they're not bank breakers by any stretch of imagination, especially for the types of companies that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you have one or two,
and you can buy like this kind of headset for like 300 or 400 euros now. So it's not. It becomes cheap, so everyone can just access it.
That's what I mean. It's like we're not looking at any like customized software or this, that, the other. We're not. 300 quid or under that kind of price point, where any company that's in this kind of space is not going to be exactly shy of 300 quid to get a VR kit either.
Exactly. It gets in part of training budgets, and is an investment as well,
People than bringing someone in for a half a day of we're all here training, right?
Yeah, exactly. To run your onboarding training. I think as well, some of the other learnings that we had through going through the process was, and Charles, you'll remember this as well, but, I suppose the more that the client got to understand the functionality and what was possible as well, then they start to think about, okay, well, what would be the best experience for their users? So, for example, they wanted to bring in, they wanted to improve how the players glided through the experience to kind of improve the navigation, and also to minimize motion sickness, which can be common in VR. Some people can experience it, and we saw that as well, where people can just get actual motion sickness from being in the headsets. And so there's ways you can minimize that. And there was just learnings like that in terms of just general navigation and minimizing how much people have to move around, creating the easiest kind of access, I guess, for people within the experience. So that was cool as well, because when we did the first project with Chartered Accountants, it was very different to the second experience that was built, and we got loads of feedback from users who went through that first experience that could really then be applied to the next experience to take it into account and minimize some of those challenges, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think you've literally answered the next question I was going to ask. What kind of feedback have the companies been giving you in terms, and where's that directing the development? In terms of the feedback, it's really interesting, right? Because actually, if you think of kind of the with an organization like Chartered Accountants, they're going to have a really broad member base. They have everyone from new graduates who are digital natives coming out of college, who are really adept
like with this technology,
Yeah.
versus people who maybe later in their technology maybe have never experienced VR before, and also maybe have a belief about some of these technologies and their use and their value. And you know, sometimes like we would bring around the headsets to different clients with us to just give them a go of it, and you know, sometimes you'll get the, oh, not these things, these are just gimmicks or whatever it is, right? But I think what this work did was it gave us a real opportunity to say, look, just give it a go, right? It's something you can really relate to. It's really accessible. And honestly, I believe that as soon as people put on the headsets for the first time, it totally changes your perception around VR, because it just does transport you into another world, and it just opens up a whole bunch of possibilities. So like, I think that was a core part of the feedback, which was, you know, it can be tricky to get people to engage with this sometimes, but once, you know, if you put the effort in to actually helping them see why not just give it a go, then you get loads of feedback out of it, you know, and positive experiences, and just opening up mindsets and perspectives about how this can be really valuable and applied, you know, in so many different ways.
Yeah. Charles, from your perspective then, taking that feedback to improve the structure, yeah, I'd imagine
something very interesting.
Really useful.
Something very interesting Catherine mentioned is like the perception of the technology. And our friend from Chartered Accountants already created a first experience. I think that was 2 years ago. And with the new one we created, the technology had already evolved. So everything is evolving quite fast in that area. You mentioned, Catherine, like the motion sickness. This is one of the worst side effects of the VR. Basically, when you put your headset on and you walk in this VR space, your brain just understands that you are walking, but you are not walking. So at some point, you lost everything, and you have like this motion sickness, which feels like seasickness a bit. And the technology is evolving, and now what we definitely advise to the people we are working with on VR experience is not to walk anymore in that VR space. So it's a bit different than in a physical space. It's just to teleport yourself from places to another places. So you just teleport from one part of the piece to another part. Maybe you just teleport yourself in 50 centimeters away or 1 meter away, but your brain just understand it differently, and you get out of this motion sickness just thanks to that. And basically, so the technology is evolving very fast, and all these little changes make any experience more real and more complete than the previous one. If you come back maybe 2, 3, or 4 years ago, in terms of realism, visual realism, it's kind of the same, but it's also evolving on that side. But in terms of practicability, it has really evolved, and it's much better now.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it. There's an interesting piece here, and I think it's that. Look, for some reason, there's a lot of fear when it comes to implementing new technology, especially in companies. Like convincing one company before to switch from desktops to laptops so I could bring it home was a challenge, like once upon a time. And I think with VR, because even myself as someone who loves technology, I said for years, VR not for me. It's gimmicky. Because I bought one a couple of years ago for the old PlayStation. I spent €560 on it. I used it 3 times. And it literally was just left in the corner gathering dust. And only when people came over, they'd be, oh, is that the VR kit? I'd be like, yeah, throw it on. Go walk around for 5 minutes. And I found I would get really lightheaded and dizzy in it. I was spending a lot of money, and there wasn't a lot of product in there. It felt gimmicky. Whereas this feels like this is actually what VR should be used for, more so than I think the idea of using it for a game was to try and make more immersive games. Whatever, great concept. I don't think we've found too many titles where it works for yet. But the best examples of VR I've seen are the likes of this, the likes of the Meta Office, the office room and stuff. I think VR has a bigger place and a bigger play in modern business than it does in like the gaming sector, because this remote world. If companies want us in, send me a VR headset. I'll log into the digital office once a week and we can all chat inside our little room. I can still stay at home and get my washing done. I don't need to travel to Dublin so you can justify your rent. Like, no way. Give me my headset. I'll log into it. So I think that's the play here. I think showing technologies in that people wouldn't have understood or considered, because I think, would it be correct in saying accountancy, it's kind of older school? A lot of the guys, the older ones, even the digitalization of accounting was probably a barrier they didn't want to cross. It's like, I like my ledger, I like my book, I have everything in my book. Go from that to strap into this headset and we're going to take you on an adventure is such a huge momentum swing in what, 15 years. I love it.
And accounting is like a profession, and this is something we've talked to chartered accountants about as well. It's a profession that is, like struggling to attract students into at like the school stage as well, like in Leaving Cert, going into like choosing accounting for Leaving Cert and going on to college to do it. And it's also a profession that's really exposed to AI. I hate to say it again, but it is, right? And it is going to really evolve. So what's going to be really crucial in accounting is that human skill that gets applied, and the decision making that comes with accounting and auditing. And so this tool is, we've also, the Unchartered Accountants have also been in discussions about bringing this into schools to students to help them actually get like kind of excited about accounting as well, and get them interested, and change perceptions around what the work actually is. It's not just spreadsheets and ERPs and all that kind of stuff. It's there's a lot more to it. So I think it really serves a purpose, actually probably far beyond we expected it to.
This is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, bringing it into schools makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I think we'd all remember the games that we remember computer class way back when we were in school, and it was like, you remember those little games that we played, and it was like finding clues and stuff like that. And like, I see companies now like Vex Robotics are one in Ireland that are very good. They're an arm of Dell. They go into primary and secondary schools and they teach them how to basically program robotics and actually make their own little mini robots and stuff like that. And it's very basic, but it's there to teach them code, to teach them
very cool,
interesting ways of learning what would otherwise be a very boring topic to teach. And then the idea is obviously to spark off that thing of go, oh yeah, I could work for Dell and make these and code these components. It's like, we've got you. You're not going to be making a fighting robot day to do your job. But now we have
don't play anymore.
But you have that baseline, and I think that makes so much sense. Like,
and exactly what you said about it. Sorry. I was going to say just about the bigger place that like VR could potentially have in organizations. Like, there's just so many opportunities. If you think about the reason we're looking at professional skepticism, because it needs that experiential piece. Like anything that requires decision making, that requires ambiguity in a situation, that where you need a safe place to train real situations, this can be applied to. Obviously, it's also very useful in scenarios where there's like health and safety risks, or anything that's quite like, that is a risky environment, right? You can build it in VR and gamify it, build safe environments for people to train, learn, fail, and without the risk.
Yeah, there are definitely plenty of use cases that you can imagine. So, and basically, as you say, Catherine, like, you want to work in a safe environment. Definitely, you're working for like a heavy industry, and you have to manage to use some tools, some heaters, if you have like some electric wrist and extra, that may be very great just to train yourself in a VR environment where you can manage everything. But as for the VR experience we created, you can just recreate any kind of human interactions. Imagine it's your first day as a sales advisor, and you meet with some unhappy clients. How should you react? What should you do? What kind of scenarios might occur? If you put it in a VR experience, you can just identify any kind of risk you might have, facing it, and maybe use the tone of voice of your company to just make it don't make it worse with your clients or stuff like that. Imagine if you are like working in the HR department and you have some crisis at some certain of level with some employees that are very unhappy with some of your decisions. How should you react? You can just train yourself in that kind of environment, so it makes
scenario training, basically.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like, to be honest with you, the more I'm talking to you, like the wheels are turning in my head. I was like, there's so many different areas that this could be twisted to. Like, I genuinely mean it. I'm like, you could release that as a game, and I swear to God, it'd be downloaded. Auditor Simulator, people would download it. But like even beyond that, I'm seeing so many like use cases for a company. As you said, the HR element. There's health and safety for construction sites, because like, I don't know if you probably have never seen that type of training. They basically pull all the lads from the site into a room and have someone in a hard hat tell them, don't drop the wrist on your toes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So this, like,
I know. Yeah.
It's just this kind of stuff where it's more engaging, it's dynamic, it's more easily understood. But then it's also from a company's perspective, this can all be monitored and tracked and database. Exactly. So like, this I think is going to become a thing.
We think so, anyway.
I think this is going to become a thing. I think this is the most obvious use of VR I've seen in terms of actual real world application. Like,
and it makes a difference, you know, when you have, for us, you know, chatting to other clients, like it's really relatable, right? People can understand it, they can get it, and they can see why it makes sense. And then I think that makes them more open to giving it a go. I think, you know, VR has been used for other scenarios like HR onboarding in global companies and things like that. And like, yes, it's effective and it has its place, but it's probably, you know, at the end of the day, you still just have to go through onboarding, right? It's just a thing that everybody has to do, but something that has real like learning outcomes, that where that stickiness really matters. And the learning is so important, that I think it really is has created kind of like a curiosity in lots of our clients that is cool to see, really, you know.
So what's next? The loaded question.
more VR.
More VR. I think what's next is that there is a new paradigm in the VR space. Of course, it's AI. Imagine tomorrow if like your non-playable character are just powered by AI. You can just demultiply all the scenario you might have. You can. It's very easier to create in 3D thanks to AI, because you can just prompt your stuff. So you can demultiply all the area you would work in. You can make your experience even more real with AI. And this is what we are currently working on with new projects. I think this is a real thing in the VR industry. Technologies are going stronger and stronger. It's also really linked to the hardware piece of VR, saying that some new companies are launching their own headsets. You have a project on which Google and Samsung are currently working on. You had like the Apple Vision Pro, who has been launched 2 years ago, but there are more and more companies who are still believing on the VR, and I believe that thanks to these new materials, new headsets, it will just the VR space will just develop itself, and with some other new cool technology.
I think it's a really good time to be in VR, because what I've definitely seen over the years, right, is there's this thing with technology. You have the hype when, like, at home, we're in the cycle of hype for AI. A few years ago, it was the cycle of hype for crypto. Before that,
and you have the hype for metaverse, and this is this was the hype. This is down. No, workers, technologists are working on the they're working on the technology in itself without the hype it's much better to work on.
And this is exactly what it is. It's this time wave where I think the first VR headsets were like the late 80s, early 90s, big, clunky, dirty things, whatever. But like it's like, here's first edition, hype. Then it goes quiet. We see development happening in this period.
Yeah.
Then it comes out again, hypes. And I think we're in that kind of maybe third or fourth wave now. So I think like the next wave of VR is the one where the mass adoption starts to happen. Like, because people are like, AI is brand new. We've been talking about Skynet since Terminator. You know what I mean? So I think we're actually on the third or fourth wave of the AI cycle, and I think VR is in that kind of pocket as well, where I would be saying VR, AR is going to be the next wave. After
now's the time.
We believe it's going to be. Definitely, we didn't reach yet the mass adoption, but you have also haptics, which are feeling technologies. All this the hardware part is very big and is very important, because you have to get the best sensation, the best visuals. You have like to get some calculable power just to make it more real. And once we evolve on that kind of stuff with NVIDIA, with all the hardware part, if it's evolving still in the right sense, then we'll reach the mass adoption at some point. It's bring it to other questions, of course, more ethics question. Do we want to have it as a mass adoption? Do we want all children to use it all the time? But definitely some cool use case are coming right now, and some even more cooler in the years to come.
Yeah, no, this is really cool. Oh no, my pen. I was just saying, I don't think, honestly, you're correct. I think there's going to be this thing of VR now that we're seeing these kind of actual like business use cases. Once people are starting to use it in business day to day, then that's when you're going to start seeing it filter into normal home life. Because it's like, well, if I use this for work, I'm going to need that for my home office. If I'm using it for this, then I'm going to need it here. So these things are going to start to become more common. Like, yeah, I'm really interested in this. Like, I'd love to have a go of it sometime.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about auditing, but I'd give it a spin sometime.
Yeah, totally. Come into the office and give you a go of it. Definitely.
You're Dublin-based, isn't it?
We are Dublin-based, yeah.
I'll send Martin over. He's literally
requires a trip to the big smoke.
Martin's Dublin City Centre base. I'll send him over. He'll bring his camera and have a lovely day. Is there anything that we haven't covered today that you feel like we should or have or need to?
No, I think the only other thing I would say is just what really worked well for us with this was the fact that Chartered Accountants Ireland did, take that leap of faith with innovation. And that's hard for clients to do because, and I should say that SkillNet were part of the funding for this as well. And so credit to them too for taking the chance on it, because it's hard to do something new, right? And it's hard to do the thing that people find barriers with, and so I just think like having a vision and having a belief for what you're trying to do and what you're trying to show and prove like is really powerful, and you end up with some cool stuff out of it.
No, perfect. Charles, anything from yourself?
No, it's just I would just say that we did some VR experience, not just for VR, but for a critical soft skill. And this is all the reason we succeeded with its experiences about that. Just think about what you really want to achieve. And maybe VR technologies are not the best technologies, or not the best way to achieve, to get some soft skills. But when it is, and you just have this focus in the experience you want to create, this, for me, this is where it really applies. VR technology really applies to the meaning of the training, and this is what we've done last time. So this is how it was great. I'll say.
Love it. So right, we'll do the big sign-off piece. If people want to find out more about obviously what you're working on, want to maybe reach out to the project idea, want to find out more about this particular project, how, why, where, and when can people get all this info?
So people can reach out directly to us. So I'm Catherine O'Doherty. You can find me on LinkedIn. and would be delighted. We're only delighted to show this off and to talk to people about how it can be used and give people a go of it as well, you know. And you can also find us at sia-partners.com for further information on us as an organization and our capability.
Yeah.
Cool.
On my side, so I'm based in France, so definitely love to reach out with you guys. I also post on my LinkedIn account the kind of experience we create, and if you want to connect, definitely I would be very happy with that.
Cool. I'll make sure I put a link to the website in the description.
Amazing.
So from our side, like we're obviously we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on all the good places where you get your podcast. We are on,
and maybe Catherine, we can just share a link to one of the video we created for the
yes,
for the
please.
project. Yeah, that would be great.
Yes,
okay,
please.
definitely gonna do that.
As well, if you have like an actual press release or anything, send it over to me, and I'll actually get an article up on the Goose website in the next week to 2 weeks.
Yeah, brilliant, cool.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to need a nap at some stage, so I'll get, if you get it over to me, say I'll say a week to 2 weeks max, and I'll get it up.
Perfect.
But like,
Okay,
and
that's
if
great.
anybody else is listening to this now and wants to find, you know, you're going to find this on all of our social channels. We're on all of them, right? Apart from one, the obvious one that everybody's leaving.
Of course.
We don't go there. But we're Goosed.ie on every other social platform. We are on YouTube. We are on Spotify. We are on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We are everywhere. So, Catherine, Charles, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on today. I'm actually surprised that VR has like in work uses. So I've learned something really cool today, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, John.
Thank you,
Love
John.
talking about it.
Anytime. So I suppose good night, good morning, goodbye, good luck, good day, good evening. I don't know. Whenever the hell you listen to this, we'll see you on the other side. Have a good one.